Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more of the Shell Part 1 Inferno. So, I will warn you guys, well, you can probably already see by this, this probably will be a little bit of a shorter video, only because I'm on a time crunch. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm on a time crunch. I was just going to put an update video telling you guys, hey, I'm not going to get a video out this week, but I really didn't want to do that. Long story short, I've got shit going on. I've got school going on. There's stuff happening, so I don't have a lot of time to record videos. At least this week. Once things get moving a little bit here, I'll be able to plan some stuff out a little bit better. But anyways, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right on back into it. So, what I was told by one of you guys in the comments is that there is a piece, I believe there was a piece of evidence that I am missing.
What am
I doing? I think it's the wrong thing. I need to go back, I believe, actually. Okay, so, fuck. So this is the little, well, I don't know if this is the deduction bit quite yet, but anyways, so Agamianus, right? I think that's it. So the scrap is a perfect match, but why the scrap on an Orihime? The dust of the jacket on the copy wasn't torn like hers. Then maybe it came from the culprits. If so, that meant the killer owned a copy of the thing, an adult man. The phone rang.
Moshi. So. It was me.
Okay. Alright, so here we go. Let me do this real quick. Then we're gonna do this. Come on. Bam. Bam. I think like here. Oh no, it was here, wasn't it? Okay, so you had everything you need. This is from Sergey Kazak, by the way. He's one of my awesome commenters. You had everything you need. No need to restart the game yet. You'll just end up in the same predicament unless you get the other game overs. There are two mistakes that you made during the deduction part. One is what schisma is, and two, the evidence that proves Kusaka is the culprit. I do have the evidence. Select it correctly, and then there's one more choice, and the story will continue. So, we have to put all this together. So, we need to be looking out for... we have some kind of mistake on what schisma. It's mainly been a while. So, I'll have to catch up on what my previous train of thought was. But hey, maybe this, kind of fresh palette will lead me to a different conclusion. And then we do have the evidence that Kusaka is the culprit. So Kusaka, I believe, is the, if I'm remembering correctly, he is the author of the Agamianus, which was inspired by Dante, well, not Dante's Inferno, but technically Dante's Inferno. So with the 7 layers of hell and all that stuff. Okay. Who is the first victim in the initial incident, the dismembered corpse found? I don't know. It's been way too long. It was one of these girls. Yui or Haruka? I think it was Yui. So yeah, there was a mishmash. These ones together, they had something else in common. So in this, let me actually save because this is gonna get kind of serious here. Oh god, my saves are all over the place. They're so scuffed. Save data, yes. Thank you. Okay. So maybe this was that bit that they were talking about. I had a wrong idea about schisma, but anyways, I'm gonna stick with this for the moment. So they all call themselves schisma. What is schisma? Maybe this was it. Because they said I had the wrong idea about schisma. I said it was a crime. Maybe it is a prostitution ring. I mean, because the thing is that from what I've kind of gathered from the story, it was some kind of combination of the girls forcing others to prostitute themselves, and then there was drugs involved. But maybe we go with prostitution ring this time. I could be getting this completely wrong. A prostitution ring composed of students, and who is their leader? Well, if I had to say, it was Orihime. There was even testimony backing that up. What's more, the corpses of the Schisma members all had something in common. Well, several things, but the main one was they were all dismembered in grotesque ways, yada yada yada. I mean, their corpses alluded to the egg of Nianus. Right? I mean, sure. I want to play around with this. Right? Their corpses all alluded to Dante's Divine Comedy. The scraps found in Yumi Takigawa and Orihime's mouths made that extremely clear. Now time for the biggest question: who's the culprit behind these murders? I have a pretty good idea by now. So we are at this point confident that it's. Oh no! Wait. Who did we say it was? Can I undo that? Okay. So no, I actually had a different idea, right? I thought I said it was Katsuragi at some point or something. I mean, like, we know it's Kusaka. Like, we had a whole scene where, like, it was him. So it's not like there's okay. Okay, because this is saying one, what Schisma is, and two, the evidence that proves that Kusaka's the culprit. Okay, we'll operate off that assumption right now. Kusaka, he said that he was Yunishi's own older brother. That meant Kusaka had strong ties to her, and yet he didn't seem all that shaken up by her disappearance. Hadn't met him 2 months after, thought it was just unnatural. None of the people I investigated, much less Overgirls Academy staff, knew he was Yunishi's own brother. Yada yada yada, yada yada yada. So we do know for, like, a dead-on fact that it is Kusaka. Like, we literally fucking saw the guy. Okay, so here we go. The evidence that proves that it was him. We do have irrefutable evidence. I saw that. No. How is this Tingus the best? He was simply a teacher to some of them. Did I have anything that could implicate him? Ooh, okay. So it's definitely not this. I wish wish there was a way to scratch this stuff out or something. Victim summary. Yada yada yada. Identified as Keiko Izumi, a student who went missing in the evening. Crime scene, corpse, eyewitness testimony on the way something burning. Psyche's job request, searching for missing student. Maybe. I do think that this has a little bit of leeway though. But corpse, no vitals, found. So the corpus of fingerprints had been positively ID'd, but were a match with the samples taken from Yunishi's on his letter. Was ID'd from pictures of missing persons on it, but the fingerprints didn't match, possibly someone else. Fingerprints matched the ones taken from maybe no, but this is Takeshita Clinic, right? I don't know. No, this won't suffice. Okay, and then it just kind of fucks you up. Okay, interesting. So all of them were members of Schisma. They were a prostitution ring. The leader was Orihime. I think all of these are, like, technically correct. I don't know if this has any specific tie-in. The corpses alluded to the Divine Comedy. I mean, like, technically they did. I don't feel whatever. Okay, so Kusaka, what's the piece? What's the evidence that's connecting them together? So it's not. Well, it's not this. I'm not really surprised. I was kind of a shot in the dark. Between 7 grams, estimated time of death. The black egg. Unizona carried one with her. Not that, obviously. Maybe the black cloth? But there's nothing tying him and the black cloth to each other. The Rokishiki case, the case that resulted in my fiance Yukiko's murder and me quitting the force, a series of murders in the 1950s, where pregnant women were killed and kidnapped and having their fetuses ripped out, but there's a striking resemblance to this case. Yeah, but that doesn't tie it to him at all. All students seem down in the dumps. Apparently there have been more absent and injured as of late. Rise in pregnancies among students via prostitution or rape. It doesn't tie it to him, though. Black Madonna, it's a rumor going around that some students in Black Madonna will be killed if it breaks. Oh man, on the walk. Right arm was twisted. Morphine was injected into the left arm. Ooh, that's kind of a reach, though, right? Morphine was injected into the left arm. Somebody had to have access to the morphine. Maybe that's a tie back to him. I'll keep that one in mind. Poem scrap begins with "Of new pain loves me." Discovered in the mouth. Divine's common Inferno. Matched Unizona's handwriting. A similar poem found in Orihime's mouth. Yada yada yada. Maybe poem scrap. Maybe. ID Azumi Takigawa, who went missing on March 8th, estimated time of death. Prescription. Kusaka frequents the Kuchiki Pathological Research Institute. Maybe. We'll keep that in mind as well. Shinzo Mamiya, Toko was drawn to it. The photograph. Schisma. Word that was a split in a religious organization. Seems to be prostitution ring. Oh, well. I'm fucking retarded. Jesus, it's right there in front of me. Seems to be a prostitution. So yeah, I was very blatantly incorrect about it being a crime syndicate. Jesus Christ, I'm not very bright. Okay, so victim 4, the ID. Spotted by his nose on his way home from work. Seems he thought she was a sleeping vagabond. Faint traces of blood. Stitches exposed. Found in her skirt pocket. Adult male fingerprints on it. Shinkasa. Distressed the black egg room. We all had the book. She died. Cause of morphine detected in her bloodstream. That's another one. Morphine. We're gonna run through these, I think. So, morphine prescription. It won't suffice. Fuck. God damn it. Okay, we're reloading. Oh, this is difficult. I thought maybe the morphine might have been something. So they were all members of Schisma. It was a prostitution ring. It was Orihime. Divine, I don't think it matters. Agamnianus. So we think it's Kusaka. Well, we know it's Kusaka. But what connects him? I mean, adult male fingerprints on it, right? Because my thinking is that, like, he has a prescription. Kusaka frequents the Kuchiki Pathological Research Institute. Sutamamiya, victim of Schisma. Her body was found. Shin Katsuragi. Adult. That's mysterious scrap. Scrap found in her body. What if that had been his? What if he owned a copy of the book with a torn dust jacket? What if we could prove the fingerprints on it were his? Oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god. Okay. Alright, we're cooking. Okay. That makes sense, right? Like, I forget what I kept doing. I forget what I kept choosing. Did I seriously not do the mysterious scrap? Did I not want to choose the mysterious scrap? Really? What? How did I not think of that? Oh my god. Okay. We're saving here, obviously. Like, what? No fucking way are we not saving here. Okay, so question Kusaka at his home, or check the school for Kusaka's fingerprints. What we know, immediately after this, we're gonna get a call from... we're gonna get a call from our guy, and he's gonna be like, oh hey, like, hey yo, we need your help with something, or something like that. Anyways, I know that immediately after this, it's gonna lead us into, okay then, we go home, Yukiko's not there, or is it Yukiko? Yukari's not there, and then yada yada yada. So, he's not gonna be at his home. I think we should check the school for Kusaka's fingerprints, surely. I decided to go check Kusaka's desk at Oba Girls Academy. He must have left his fingerprints there. Suddenly, the phone rang. Guess it was Omi, is it? Yep, his wife is missing. It hit me like a bolt out of the blue. Okay, so we already know all of this. We go to his house, we find the dead body. All this is stuff we have seen before. I go here. It doesn't matter. It looks like it just leads to the same path. Game over. Okay. Interesting. Okay, let's go directly to his home. Maybe that's what I'm missing here, right? Let's try it. I'll go see him in person. It was late, so he probably wouldn't be at school. If anywhere, he'd likely be home at this hour. Fortunately, I still had that staff address book Psyche gave me when I first took on the job. And so I whipped it out and checked. Here we go, boys, here we go. The place was a little far from the office. What to do? Call Uzomi to send over a police escort to take me there? Or should I just grab a cab? Oh my god, holy shit. This is getting serious. Okay. Good lord almighty. Let's overwrite some of this stuff, because I don't think I need it anymore. So we're gonna start overwriting this stuff. Okay. Call for a police escort. Call for a cab. Police escort, surely, right? Like, getting a police escort seemed like a smart move. If my hunch was correct, then anything could happen at Kusaka's place. I picked up the phone and dialed the MPD. A roar cut me off before I could get in another word. Okay, then it goes back to that. Alright, so I think the play here is just to completely avoid Uezomi. Because I think if we at all interact with Uezomi, it's going to be, oh hey, shit's gone pear-shaped. Call for a cab. Storming in with a police escort seemed ill-advised. All of this would be for nothing if we alerted him the jig was up, after all. Thus, I reluctantly decided to catch a cab, much as it would make my wallet cry. The good news was that there likely still be cabs near Shinjuku Station at this hour. I donned my coat and made my way out into the chilly March night. There we go. Okay. So just avoid even possibly talking to Uezomi. I hailed a cab and got off not too far from Kusaka's listed address. Though it was dark, I managed to find his place by following the street signs. However, the lights in his apartment were off. Maybe he's out. I walked up to the front door and knocked softly. I got no response from within. Still no answer. I grabbed the doorknob, and the door yielded shockingly easily. Had he left in a hurry? Or was I just lucky? In any case, the perfect opportunity to investigate had been gift wrapped for me. However, I had no warrant, meaning I was no different from a common burglar at the moment. Good thing I didn't call it Uezomi. Well, there you go, right? Not even he would have let illegal entry slide. Okay. I tiptoed into the apartment. Kusaka wasn't home just as I'd expected, but where could he have gone so late? I'd be arrested as a burglar for real if Kusaka came back only to find me snooping around. Thus, I put on my gloves and got to work. Oh my god. Dude, what the fuck? First off, I'm still amazed that I somehow didn't... I think my initial thinking was that, okay, I got an option that moved the story forward. So there, because like a lot of these games have it where it's like, oh hey, there's only one option. So I had it in my head where there was only a singular option that you could get right in that deduction section. And that was the only option that was going to move the story forward. Which, obviously I was wrong. But I don't even know how I didn't even think of that beforehand. Real quick here. What did I choose before? I imagine I probably did, like, the black egg or something, right? Or, like, the book. Excuse me. And it somehow moved the story forward. But... yeah, no, of course, the mysterious fucking scrap with the adult male's fingerprints on it. I didn't even put that together, man. Whatever. Alright, let's move on. Let's start clicking, baby. There were 2 books on the table. They appeared to be some sort of medical journals. The topic in question was surgical treatment. Oh, well, there you go. I saw what appeared to be a radio on the shelf. It didn't look like one of those newfangled transistor radios. I examined the entire bookcase. Though it usually would have been the best place to find something, there wasn't even so much as a speck of dust in the gap between the bookcase and the wall. Kuzuka was probably a bit of a neat freak. I opened the cabinets atop the case, but found only a small teapot and a can of leaves within. Nothing suspicious. I noticed something resting on the shelf. It was an old-fashioned notebook. Well, well, well. What do we have here? I carefully flipped through the pages. That was an excerpt from the Divine Comedy, and I recognized the handwriting. It was Yui Nishizono's. Could this be? Yes, indeed, brother. Yes, it could be. I scanned the books on the bookshelves. All of them seemed to be about teaching. Rather zealous about his work, eh? I skimmed through them, but ultimately found nothing of note. Plain old books. Plain old books. Nothing over there. Can I go over here? I think that's it. That's it, right? Yeah. I flipped through the notebook and scoured for the 20th canto. Cantos 3, 4, and whatever the hell that is had been ripped out. The same went for whatever that is and whatever that is. So this really was where the paper stuffed into Yumi Takigawa and Orihime's mouths came from. Mateo. The maggots planted in Yui Nishizono and Haruka Imamura's bodies matched up with the punishment in Canto III, where those at the gate of hell were beset by stinging horseflies and bees. Keiko Izumi, who had been buried in the ground with her foot set ablaze, corresponded to the punishment of simoniacs from the 3rd pit of the 8th circle of hell in Canto, whatever that is. Meanwhile, Yumi Takigawa's twisted head alluded to the punishments of diviners in the 4th pit of the 8th circle of hell and Canto, whatever that is. Finally, Orihime Tsukishima's body was lacerated from head to toe, lining up with the punishment of schismatics in the 9th pit of the 8th circle of hell in Canto, whatever that is. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a Roman numeral expert. That should have been everyone. So why was Canto 4 also ripped out? Masaka. I didn't know what Canto 4 entailed, but the message's absence sent shivers down my spine. Was that why Kuzuka wasn't home? I looked around the apartment. However, I didn't have a phone. Though, even if I had, it would have been bad for me to call from there for all sorts of reasons. Maybe there's a police box or a phone booth nearby. I raced out of the apartment. Getting in touch with Uzomi took top priority. He needed to know before it was too late. Eventually, I found a phone booth near Ogikubo Station. I wasted no time bursting in and calling the MPD. My ears rang from Uzomi's roar. The pit of my stomach turned to ice. What? Why? She didn't have any connection to Schisma or Kuzuka as far as I knew. Could it be? It's a tragedy from 6 years ago unfolding all over again. Holy shit, dude. I was getting hyped over fucking, us getting led to a dead end. And look at this shit now.
吐息が漏れる幸せな時間あなたのぬくもりが私をとろけさせるどこにも居場所のなかった私が 唯一安心できる場所。あなたの鼓動を感じる。できることならばこのままずっとあなたの腕に抱かれていたい。
I'm not a poet, so I have no clue what that means. But I am a detective, as you can tell. My mind frantically raced through the possible avenues to pursue. Do I head to Takashiro's place in Ueno like Uezomi said, or should I try to track Kusaka down? Track Kusaka? Hello? I mean, I'm gonna save here, obviously, just because this is way too vital. But, I mean, we know what happens if we go to Ueno. We get the whole scene where it plays out, and then, you know, oh, he's angry, yada yada yada. We know what happens. We're going after Kusaka. I decided Uezomi should handle Takashiro. If Kusaka had kidnapped Kazuna, then going after him would lead me to her. But where could he be? Kusaka hadn't left any hints of his current whereabouts at his apartment, but maybe I'd find some leads at his desk. I flagged down a cab by Okikubo's station and directed it straight over to Open Girls Academy. Though it was the dead of night, the lights were still on in the staff room. It seemed someone was burning the midnight oil. I doubted it was Kusaka, but it never hurt to be cautious. It's probably, our girl. Oh, fuck, what's her name? Before long, I found Saiki working in the staff room. Oh, it's not her. I thought it was a nurse.
時坂先生じゃありませんか。
佐伯教頭。
Phew. No, wait, I shouldn't be relieved. Far from it.
こんな時間にどうされましたか。
草加達彦の机を教えてください。
草加先生、彼がどうかしましたか。
Saiki looked positively confused.
一連の事件に深く関わっています。
そんな、まさか。
The vice principal was rendered speechless like he'd been stabbed in the back.
残念ですが。
そうですか。彼はそこの席を使っています。
Imagine that. Like, oh wow. Oh, the guy that he's probably the one that hired. The guy I hired. The guy that I worked with. The guy that I entrusted with the education and safety of my students has kidnapped them and brutally murdered them. Oh, wow. I wonder how I should take that. I mean, Jesus Christ.
どうも。
I hastily opened the desk drawer, all the while praying I'd find the clue I needed within. Sticking my hand in, I scavenged through notebooks, documents, and letters.
何をお探しですか。
I answered Saiki's question while continuing my
や
search.
つの草加達彦の居場所を探しています。荻窪にあるアパートにはいませんでした。他にどこか潜伏できるような場所があるはずなんです。
If he was truly behind those serial killings, then he'd need somewhere to chop up the bodies. But his apartment had been far too small and spotless for the task, meaning he must have been committing the murders someplace else.
そういえば、彼が以前言っていましたね。
Now that stopped me in my tracks.
東伏見ですか。
I turned around as the gears in my head started spinning. Orihime Fukushima's body had been dumped in Musashiseki Park, right by Higashi Fushimi Station. She'd supposedly still been alive when she was first left in the park, meaning it was highly likely the scene of the crime had been fairly close. Is this it? Have I struck gold?
佐伯教頭、少々お電話をお借りします。
ええ、どうぞ。
I picked up the receiver and dialed the Takashiro Detective Agency after some pondering. As for why, I figured Uezomi would be there.
こちら、高城探偵事務所。
Takashiro's voice sounded absolutely dead.
俺だ、時坂だ。そこに魚住はいるか。
おお、今変わる。
It didn't sound like Takashiro would be much help the way he was now. It'd probably be best to leave him behind. The fact that his wife had been kidnapped also meant we had to be prepared for the worst case scenario, one that would destroy the guy.
おお、レジ、てめえどこい。
魚住、東伏見だ。
I interrupted Uezomi before he could go off on me.
東伏見だ。月島織姫が見つかったところじゃねえか。
あの周辺で持ち主が草加か西園って名前の空き家を探してくれ。そこに必ず。
Holy fucking shit, this is
奴がいる。
insane. This is absolutely insane.
おい、西園っての。
説明している時間はないからさっさと言ってくれ。俺も今から行く。
分かってる。残していく。じゃあ東伏見の駅前で待っていてくれ。
Uezomi hung up, and with that, all the pieces were in place.
佐伯教頭、お騒がせしました。
いえ、構いませんよ。それよりこれから向かうのですか？
ええ。
東伏見まででしたらお送りしますよ。
Saiki flashed me his car keys and nodded. Nice. W Saiki. Spam up W's in the chat for Saiki, guys. At last, the time has finally come. The girl was sound asleep. I'm truly blessed. How could such perfect material simply find its way to me? A hand stroked her cheek. They don't look all that much alike, but so be it. I can mold it as I see fit. Beholding the girl's limbs, a thought came to mind. These accursed things truly do get in the way. The only way to purge the unneeded was to cut them off at the source. An axe was drawn towards the girl. Her skin was lush and beautiful. She would make for a fine substitute. A moment later, her right leg was grabbed, consequently spreading her carpeted vagina. How repulsive. After her femur was locked in place, the axe was swung. The girl's right leg fell to the floor. She didn't wake up. That was no surprise, however, considering that she'd been pumped full of drugs. It would have made work that much harder if she put up a fuss. Besides, eliciting screams wasn't a factor in any of this. No such desire drove the cleaving axe onward. Now, I have much work left to do. Oh, fuck! Oh, please. Oh, God. Motherfucker, dude. Oh, please let us fucking make it in time. Oh, there's already been so much blood that I feel like is on our hands, and I cannot take it if there was even more like that's about to be fucking shed.
これは私が唯一抱いた夢なのだから。
Okay. Please, for the love of God, let us make it in time before she becomes a nugget. Oh, God. Saiki gave me a lift over to Higashimi Fushimi Station, where I regrouped with Uezomi. The reddish-orange glow of Sunday morning had crept over the horizon by the time Uezomi and I found exactly what we were looking for. The house, emblazoned with the nameplate Kusaka at the gate, was well on its way to ruin. Alright. Uezomi stubbed out a cigarette. This was probably where we'd find everything. Oh, no, we haven't. Okay, so this is all slightly altered at the very least. Rancid didn't even begin to describe the stench we encountered. The whole house was steeped in death. Even Uezomi grimaced and covered his mouth. The place was dilapidated. Layers of dust caked the floors. A pair of leather shoes were lying neatly up by the front door. Several adult-sized footprints, likely belonging to a single person, Kusaka, littered the ground here and there. I sure as hell wasn't crazy enough to take off my shoes in this shithole. Uezomi barked orders to the cops hanging back. Oh fuck, holy shit. Oh my god, please let us save this poor fucking woman. I steeled myself. The master of this world of death was right past the entryway. The bastard who conducted this unprecedented symphony of slaughter had to face punishment. I stepped into the wooden hallway, the floorboards groaning under my shoes. Uezomi's voice was laced with disgust as he looked around. We'd followed the stench of death all the way to this room. Inside was a sight indeed fit for the piece of literature that had inspired these killings. I'm censoring this, guys. It's censored. A girl's body rested on the bed as if she were the centerpiece of a museum exhibit. Her eye sockets were hollow, swarms of maggots making themselves home in the withered cracks that had once been her bone cheeks. The girl's hair had all but entirely unyoked itself from her scalp, exposing her skull. In contrast, the rest of her body was in far better shape, so long as you ignore the threads binding the limbs together anyway. That was a statement, not a question. I took out the photo of her I had in my notebook. Unfortunately, she was hardly recognizable in that state. Uzomi left the room behind him. He was probably looking for the culprit. However, I sensed no other signs of life than us in his house. I stared at the corpse from the bed again. She was missing a right leg, meaning Kusuka hadn't gotten his hands on one just yet. Oh, and that's would have been the leg that he took from presumably Shugo's wife. A copy of the Egg of Nianus was right next to the body. The dust jacket was torn, just as I'd predicted, though the revelation brought me no joy.
レイジ、こっちに来てくれ。
Uzomi beckoned me over from the hallway. I followed his voice and found him peeking into another room.
いたぞ。
日下か。
いや、高城の嫁さんだ。
I brushed past Uzomi and strode inside. Kazuna Takashita was on the floor all tied up. Her right leg was still there. What? What leg did he take the left leg? Did I get that mixed up? I didn't get that mixed up, did I? Come on. Her right leg was grabbed, consequently spreading her carpeted vagina. Who is this? So he had kidnapped Shugo's wife. He later goes on to kidnap Yukari. But we see for a fact that he doesn't do anything to Yukari. But maybe it could very well be that... I'm so confused. There's no way that the girl's leg he just chopped off was Yukari. If it is... what? In the event that played out where we were left in a dead end, he did some crazy shit where he froze Yukari in a fucking glass shell. So there's no way that he's done this to Yukari. So it either is Yukari and I'm tripping and just in denial, or he's fucking grabbed somebody completely different.
眠らされているだけのようだな。
ああ。だが身重だから一刻も早く病院へ。
Suddenly I heard a creak from the hallway.
なんだ?
I looked up and found myself face to face with him.
邪魔するなよ。そいつにも罰を与えないと。
Kusaka was creeping his way over, a medical scalpel in hand.
おい、武器を捨て。
A geyser of crimson blood erupted out of the cop's throat.
邪魔するなって言ったろ。さあ、そいつ
Do
に
these
も
guys not have
罰を。
guns? Come on, man.
やめろ。
I sidestepped out of the way of Kusaka's wild slash and then rushed him.
邪魔するな。
Actually, I think that the most they had was like the batons. I don't think that they had guns at this point yet. My left arm stung, a burning sensation running down its length. Still, I had to stand my ground. I couldn't let him take another step closer. What's Uzomi doing? This big unit of a fucking guy. Uzomi charged in and slugged Kusaka across the face. Kusaka winced and fell over, dropping the scalpel. After that, Uzomi wasted not even a second pinning him to the ground.
いい加減に観念しやがれってんだ。
Holy shit, wait. Okay, I'm gonna hold that for later.
邪魔するなって言っているだろう。あと一人なんだよ。もう少しで妹がユイが戻るんだよ。黙ってろ。
Uzomi roared, snatching a pair of handcuffs out of his pocket. But at that exact moment, Kusaka twisted his body with all his might. Uzomi lost his balance. Kusaka took the opportunity to grab the scalpel with his left hand.
邪魔なんだよ。
Kusaka stabbed Uzomi's right leg.
ほら、さっさとどけよ。あんたの足じゃ代わりにはならないけど、それでも切り落とすくらいは簡単なんだよ。
Kusaka wrenched the scalpel deep into Uzomi's leg.
ほら、痩せ我慢なんかせずにどけろよ。
それだけか。ああ。
Uzomi seized Kuzuka's left hand and yanked it towards
こ
himself.
んなのちっとも痛くねえよ。てめえがバラした仏の痛みに比べればな。うるさいんだよさっきから。お前にユイの何がわかる？僕の何がわかる？痛み？そんなのどうでもいいんだよ。それよりも早くあの女を。
Kuzuka squirmed under Uzomi's grasp.
てめえ、この子に及んで。
Uzomi raised his
やめ
fist.
ろ魚住。
エイジ、なぜ止めるんだ？
もういいだろ
何もよくねえだろ。
Oh, jeez. I crouched down next to Kusaka.
草加先生、そろそろ西園さんを、妹さんを解放してあげてください。
何？
Kusaka blinked repeatedly, confused.
これ以上あなたの幻想に付き合わされるのは不憫すぎる。あなたのしていることには何の意味もないんですよ。あなたは自らの妄想を具現化しようとした。それはただの自己満足。
精神科生き鳥か。いい加減なこと言うな。ユイの体はどうしても必要なんだ。
Kusaka howled in rage.
自らが構築した閉ざされた殻の中は全てを思い通りにできる世界。出たくなくなるのもわかります。
Oops. However, that was a mere delusion, a pipe dream.
そうだ。ユイは生きているんだ。だから僕は彼女の体を。
目を覚ましなさい、草加さん。あなたがどうあがこうと失われた命は戻らない。
うるさい。
Almost there.
ならばあなたの妄想の中のユイさんは何と言っていますか？
喜んでいるさ。そうに決まっている。
では彼女の本当の体はどうですか？腕は捨てられ、足も胴もどこかわからぬ場所へ捨て置かれ、先ほど彼女に会いましたが泣いていましたよ。
嘘だ。ユイは
では会いに行きましょうか。
I shot Uezomi a glance right then. He helped Kusaka to his feet, catching wind of what I was getting at.
ユイ。
Kusaka attempted to race over to the corpse on the bed as soon as we returned to that room.
じっとしてろ。
He then reached towards the corpse, still under Uezomi's firm grip all the while.
見てください。ユイさんは泣いていますよ。
I pointed to the body.
嘘だ。ユイ、悲しいのかい？どうして？もうすぐで体が全て揃うんだよ。
今彼女が欲しているのは安らかな眠りです。自らの体が全て揃ってこそ。
僕はユイの体を。
さあ、ユイさんを楽にしてあげてください。そしてあなたも全てを認めて楽になるのです。
I walked up to Kusaka and whispered into his ear.
ユイさんは死んだのです。
Jesus Christ. Kusaka screamed. The air reverberated with his lament. A moment later, he fell to his knees.
僕はユイを。
Kusaka mumbled to himself as he stared at the corpse on the bed. He didn't respond even when Uezomi seized his wrist. And with that, Tatsuhiko Kusaka was handcuffed.
丸七二三時、被疑者確保、連れて行け。怪我をしたやつも早く運べ。
Uezomi marched up to me once he'd finished addressing his men.
エイジ、お前は昔から体を使うことには慣れてねえんだから、 無茶するんじゃねえよ。
Real quick, let's not just ignore the fact that... Okay. First off, somebody's right leg was taken. Let's not... Somebody's right leg was objectively taken. We don't know who it is. We found that Shugo's wife is safe and sound. Yukari's still in the question in terms of victims. Again, it could have been somebody completely different. Also, it could... But basically what I'm getting at is this is telling me maybe there's somebody else involved in this. And this is something that I think I brought this up before. But I think there might be somebody else involved. Because, I mean, when Kuzuka came up to us, he wasn't, like, drenched in blood. I figured after you chop a leg off of somebody, you're drenched in blood, right? And besides, it just doesn't fit his MO. Like, yeah, he's gonna chop off her leg and then immediately go upstairs, or I guess wherever, and confront these cops to try and kill the pregnant lady. You know, that just doesn't really fit the MO. And then again, we've presumably searched the entire house, maybe, and we haven't found anything else. Yet he's here. So if he's here going crazy about trying to kill Shugo's wife, then when in that time frame does he have the time to chop off a completely separate victim's leg? I thanked Uzomi as I gripped my left elbow.
腕の付け根をハンカチか何かで縛っておけ。で、高城の嫁さんと一緒にさっさと病院に行ってこいや。
Uzomi was checking on the woman in question. I used my right hand and mouth to create a makeshift tourniquet.
下手に動かさない方がいいな。頭を強く打っているようだ。今、救急隊を呼んでくる。
おい、お前だって怪我してるだろ。
If anything, he looked far worse for wear than me.
こんなのへでもねえよ。お前とは体の作りが違うんだよ。
Uzomi got up and left. Silence finally returned to the room. Kazuna Takashida was breathing peacefully. Thank God we got here in time. An overwhelming wave of exhaustion hit me once I let myself relax. I can probably afford to take a nap now that the medics are going to take me to a hospital. Don't think anyone can blame me for being so beat after all that shit I went through. So yeah, I just need a little rest, that's all. No, buddy. We're not done yet. We're far from over. We gotta finish up this game. We got 2 more games after it, alright? We're not done yet. Kazuna Takashida was quickly sent to the Kujiki Pathological Research Institute, where she was given a checkup. It seemed she had a large lump on her forehead from when she'd been kidnapped. But luckily, that was it for injuries. Both she and her baby were in good health. However, the hospital needed to keep an eye on her to be safe, so she'd be staying here a while. Hatsune told me when she came to visit that Takashida was by her side around the clock. If anything, I was the one who'd suffered worse this time around. The medical scalpel Kuzuka injured me with had been lying around for years inside that practical ruin of a house, so while there'd been no problem with using it on corpses, it was a completely different story when it came to a living, breathing human like me. The doctor said that my wound had been a hotbed of saprophytic bacteria. They'd had to disinfect the wound over and over again since it had gotten infected. As a result, I ended up getting saddled with over 10 stitches for a wound that I could have just shrugged off if Kuzuka had simply used an ordinary sterile scalpel.
Oh, Reiji, ここにいたか。
Suddenly, Uzomi dropped by for a visit. The bastard was strutting everywhere like all that shit he'd been subjected to yesterday was nothing.
お前、怪我は？
あ？あんなの唾つけときゃ治るだろ。
嘘だろ。おい。
I don't know about that, buddy. What sort of Deus Machina bullshit has he been blessed with?
で、草加の取り調べはどうなった？
ああ、今うちの警視殿がやってる。
Uzomi stuck a cigarette in his mouth.
ここは禁煙だとよ。俺もさっき止めら
I'm
れ
worried
た。
about Yukari. A lot. Uzomi gave a frustrated snort and shoved the cigarette back into his pocket.
草加に最初に切られたあいつもなんとか無事だった。まあ、それで奴の罪が軽くなるはずもないがな。
殺人及び死体損壊。 死体遺棄、誘拐監禁、傷害に
I don't know, maybe
逃
like
亡もつ
three
いたら
life
何なん
sentences.
だ。
さあな、刑期を考えるのは警察の仕事じゃねえよ。
The prosecution would likely call for the death penalty at his trial.
さて、俺は高城一菜に話を聞きに来たんだが、レイジも来るか？
いや、病室に何人も入るのは迷惑だろ。
そうか。
お前って別に女が苦手ってわけじゃねえんだよな。
急になんだ？仕事だぞ仕事。
じゃあなんで今日この前じゃ縫ったばかりのところ殴るなよ。
くだらねえこと言ってんじゃねえバカ野郎が。
You're in love. Uzomi roared and blasted spittle everywhere with a flushed face before leaving with a huff. Son of a bitch. Learn to pull your punches, will you? God, who's the real dumbass here? I writhed in pain as I futilely pondered whether the place was still accepting patients. I'm so fucking worried. A few days later, I stopped by Natsume's clinic after hearing the autopsy for Yui Nishizono was complete.
おやいらっしゃい、時坂はん。
Natsume was casually puffing on a cigarette.
遺体の検視が済んだと聞いたんですが。
ああ、終わっとります。女の子の仏さんですけど。
Natsume picked up a document.
頭は西園由衣、胴体が今村遥、左腕小泉慶、右腕滝川由美。で、左足が月島織姫。右足だけはギリギリ間に合わんかったっちゅうことや。
Natsume read off the list without a hint of emotion.
警察の捜査の結果、家の庭に今村遥の両腕が埋められていたのを発見。
Jesus Christ.
西園由衣の胴体と両足は冷蔵庫に入っとったんやけ
Jesus
ど、
Christ. The edge of Natsume's mouth curled for a moment.
冷蔵庫だって最新式の電気のやない。氷入れとくやつやったからな。
自分の妹だけは大切に保存していた。
本人に聞かなわからへんわ。その辺どうなんおっす？魚住藩。
Uzomi had showed himself in at the perfect time.
あ、何のことだかわからねえんだが。
草加のことだよ。
ああ、そういうことか。いろいろと出てきたぞ。西園由衣と兄弟だったのは真実のようだ。父親もそう証言している。
父親がいたのか。
The father still kicking?
地方の病院に勤めていたんだが、実家には全く帰っていなかったようだ。それでも実家に多くの薬品を保管していたということで、薬事法か麻薬取締法違反の疑いで捜査中だ。
Uzomi tossed a large envelope my way.
詳しくはそこに書いてある。動機などの肝心な部分は星の精神状態がまだ落ち着いていないようで、はっきりとは聞き出せていないようだがな。
壊れちまったんだろうな。
I still remembered the look on his face when he swung the scalpel. That had not been the expression of a sane man. No, it was a face overtaken by madness. The face of a pitiful criminal who couldn't become the Black Madonna. One who, in the end, had broken the Black Egg himself.
朽木病理学研究所の斉藤医師が草加の治療に当たるそうだ。
そうか。
Saizo had been Kuzuka's primary physician, so I saw no problems with letting him handle things.
ほいなら事件解決をお祝いしてなんか食いに行きまへん？もう
いや、夏目さん、それはどうかと思いますよ。
There's the killer's still on the loose, I think. The date was March 24th. I was quietly lingering in a corner of Oba Girls Academy's chapel. The students were all silently amassed, lending their ears to Saiki's speech at the podium. This was the school's closing ceremony, as well as a wake for Orihime Tsukishima, Yui Nishizono, and Haruka Imamura. Though silence was the golden rule at this school, it was unnerving to not even hear a single sniffle amongst the audience. Things and people were missing here and there. Students, teachers, everything seemed incomplete. Once the closing ceremony concluded, I sat down in the history prep room and stared at the ceiling. Time to say goodbye to this place, huh? My job was now finished. Though I could hardly call it a success, All I had to show for my investigation were murdered victims and their grieving families. Worst of all, most of them had been affiliated with this very school. Still, at least I'd managed to save someone. No, make that 2 people.
ああ、時坂先生。こちらにいましたか。
Saiki came in through the open
佐
door.
伯教頭、どうかしましたか？
I stood up and offered Saiki my chair. However, he simply shook his head.
今回の件についてお礼を申し上げようと思いまして。
いえ、俺は結局何もできませんでしたから。
そんなことはありません。きちんと事件を解決されたではありませんか。
ですが、
But he still failed to save Orihime Tsukishima.
月島さんが亡くなられたのは決してあなたの責任ではありませんよ。
Saiki tapped my shoulder.
時坂先生にはとても感謝しています。これは少ないのですが取っておいてください。
He held out an envelope to me.
受け取れません。
What gall would I have to take a reward for all the terrible shit I failed to stop?
ではこうしましょう。これは時坂先生が授業を行ったことに対する報酬です。
しかし、
受け取ってください。あなたはそれだけのお仕事をされたのですから。
申し訳ありませんが、
そうですか。
It seemed I'd finally convinced Saiki to give up.
また何かあった時に。
I stopped myself right then and there. The only reason he'd ever have to call for my services again was if something bad happened.
ねえ、何かあった時にはぜひよろしくお願いします。
Saiki smiled.
しかし、草加先生は他に道はなかったのでしょうか。
He sighed heavily.
彼は真面目な教師でした。本当に学生のことを考えている。そう私の目には映りました。
おそらく彼は真面目な人間なのだと思いますよ。真面目だからこそ自らのパラノイアを認めようとしなかった。妹の西園結衣を殺してしまったこと、おそらくこれは過失だったのでしょうが、そこから彼女の体を修復することに取りつかれてしまった。本来は優しい人間だったのでしょうね。
私が彼の苦しみに気づいてあげられればよかったのですが。
I couldn't find any words to put his mind at ease. I left the history room after cleaning my stuff out, only to find Ayumu Sato waiting for me.
時坂先生、
どうしたんだい？
ゆいのお墓、どこにあるか知っていますか？
ああ、
連れて行ってください。まだお別れもしていないんです。
Ayumu stared resolutely into my eyes as she said
わ
that.
かったよ。ついておいで。
I decided to head to the graveyard with her in tow.
ゆいは私に何も話してはくれませんでした。
親友だからこそ話せないこともあるさ。
We talked as we made our way toward Yui's grave.
ですが、何か一言でも相談してくれればよかったのに。
Ayumu didn't know what had happened to Yui or what she'd been up to. All the school had said was that she'd been murdered, nothing more. Hardly a shock they didn't tell the full
こ
story.
っちだ。
I got at Ayumu over, but suddenly stopped dead in my tracks.
森夜月くんだったか。
どうも。
Yorutsuki said hi and walked right past me, carrying tributes he must have shared at Yui's grave.
あの人は
西園さんとよく会っていたそうだ。写真を撮ったり。
He even took her picture.
あの人が
Ayumu stared at Yorutsuki for quite some time.
ゆいが手紙に書いていました。
そうか。
Yui Nishizono probably didn't hate him at
こ
least.
こだ。
Yui's grave was pristine. An incense stick, probably left by Yorutsuki, was still fuming.
ゆい、
Ayumu crouched down and prayed. I looked on from behind her. Yui's body had been dismembered. After her autopsy had been sewn back together before she was cremated. Thus, her soul finally found peace after all these months. I closed my eyes and said a prayer too. Yukiko's headless corpse at her funeral flashed through my mind in just the slightest of moments. Ayumi went home once evening came, but before she left, she told me with a sad smile that she lived nearby and would be back in the future. Time for me to get going, I guess. However, when I turned around, she was there. And you know what else was there? The end of the video, yippee! Alright, we're gonna go ahead and save. I know. Can I, what? What's going on? Oh, that's a load. I'm fucking stupid. I know. Why you ended it here? This isn't 2 hours. This is only like an hour. I know. Like I said, I'm on a time constraint today. I really only had about an hour or so to spare. Again, I just wanted to get a video out to you guys. I promise you, I mean, obviously we're going to be looking to like try and wrap this video, this series up so we can like move on. So probably I will be getting back to this is basically what I'm trying to get at here. This is not going to be like, you know, like the next video you're going to get, which is probably going to be on like Saturday, I'd imagine, is going to be another The Shell video, and it will be longer. I promise you that. But holy guacamole, I mean, geez, man. One piece of evidence, and maybe that option where we choose that it's a prostitution ring instead of a crime syndicate. That one thing that I somehow missed the first 1,000 fucking times that I did this. And that led us down this entirely different path. And again, there's still somebody out there. I am fucking very confident that Kusaka was at the very least not the one to kill that last victim that had her right leg chopped off, right? Like, again, it's been supposedly like, you know, at least a couple days since we confronted Kusaka, and there's been no mention of, oh hey, and then this girl's body was found in the house. So there's somebody else out there that was either conspiring with Kusaka, copying what Kusaka was doing, something along those lines. I'm imagining it's probably going to be a co-conspirator. But there's somebody else out there that, for one, would have had to put the idea of this whole thing in Kusaka's head. Because he had his own personal copy of the book, right? So that kind of makes me feel like, I'm pretty sure he did, but that kind of makes me feel like, okay, that's a little bit weird, right? Like, and then the fact that Yui was involved in, you know, Schisma and all the, you know, their connections with the book and the Egg of Nianus and Dante's Inferno and the Black Eggs and the Black Madonna. I mean, there's so much fucking shit that it's not quite perfectly aligned with Kusaka being the be-all end-all of this. So I think there's somebody else out there. I think there's a co-conspirator out there that has chopped off the leg of some who the fuck knows who this girl is, and we're not done. We are not done. And I would even dare to say that I mean I think it's pretty obvious at this point that at some point it's going to be revealed, hey, yeah, the big bad was actually, you know, the original person behind the whatever Rokushiki murders all those years ago, right? I think that's pretty safe to say. But we're just gonna have to find out in the next video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, for sticking with me through my terrible upload schedule. Yeah, if you like the video, leave a comment in this comment section below. Let me know which likes me to play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!